All right. So, did you bring a chart with you to this meeting about discipline at Columbia Correction Institution?
I don't recall.
Okay. And at this time was Columbia Correction Institution, who was the warden there?
Sue Novak.
Okay. And in 2019, is it true that there were 30 disciplinary terminations at Columbia Correctional Institution?
In the whole year of 2019?
Correct.
I don't know.
Okay. Is it true that in 2018, under your predecessor, that there were only 13 disciplinary terminations at Columbia Correctional Institution?
Objection, speculation, lacks basis of knowledge.
Okay. Do you know, have any knowledge regarding how many people were disciplined in 2018?
No.
Okay. When you became the secretary, what steps, if any, did you take to learn about the status of the institutions under your leadership?
I
Object to
visited.
vague.
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I'm going to object to vague and
Question?
overbroad question.
Okay, please do a more directed question, Mr. Cross.
Okay. So when you became the secretary of the Department of Corrections, did the Department of Corrections start over brand new?
Do you mean that did the legislature dissolve the Department of
Sure.
Corrections?
Let's start
and
with
create
that. Is
whole
it a
new
fresh
one?
new slate? Is this a new organization that you're in charge of, sir?
Okay, Secretary Cross, to your knowledge, was the DOC that you became in charge of in 2019 this organization that has been in existence under Wisconsin state law for many years? Or was this a new law where this legislature had created this whole new DOC with whole new rules?
Your Honor, I would answer the question this way. The DOC has existed for many years, and I'm, when I became the secretary, the agency was what it is.
Okay.
So you assume the direction of an existing agency, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cross.
Did you take any steps to learn what was the status of that agency that was ongoing when you took over?
I object again to overbroad and vague question.
How about let's just focus on discipline? Did you take any steps to review the disciplinary practices of the Department of Corrections once you took over?
I'm going to object to relevance. There was no discipline issued in this case.
I'm going to allow, at least for the investigation part of it, did you take any steps to learn about how discipline would occur in terms of investigations, and then finally just a disciplinary decision at the DOC when you started to know how that system worked, or if there was a system, did you implement your new system? So what was the process in 2019 when you started?
When I started in 2019, there was already a disciplinary process that is pretty much outlined under Department of Administration, DPM rules and civil service rules. There's a whole disciplinary process that is prescriptive, that is intended to provide consistency regardless of who the secretary is.
Great. And does the Department of Corrections compile any statistics on discipline?
Yes.
Okay. Have you reviewed those statistics at any time?
From time to time, when I have a specific question about certain types of conduct, I will ask for a report that contains or includes statistical information.
Like, for example, how many disciplinary terminations there were at Columbia Correctional Institution in 2019?
Object to relevance.
I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I may have asked for that. I don't have an independent recollection of it at this moment.
Okay. Would this document help to refresh your memory?
Which document?
The document we just reviewed about Exhibit 29, entitled Prism Forum Report on January 22nd Meeting with DOC Secretary Carr and other officials.
Looking at that document, refresh, make it possible for you to understand what the statistics were back at that time?
Not necessarily, because I don't know whether that document reflects an accurate description of what took place that day, because I don't have an independent recollection of having produced statistics relative to how many disciplines took place at Columbia Correctional in 2019.
Sounds like a yes to me, Judge.
No, I don't see
Yes.
that. So, and that's just a comment. So let's move on, ask a question that he can actually answer. If you have statistics you want him to look at for
Great.
some reason, but I want there to be some worthwhileness to this, because we can get an exhibit then maybe, but just the fact that there's numbers doesn't help me. So
Great,
move on.
okay. At any time, sir, did you review any disciplinary statistics on a general basis for 2018?
Not that I recall.
How about 2017?
Judge, I'm going to object, and we seem to be getting into discovery at this point in time, which was expressly prohibited during this hearing.
Yes, Mr. Cross, why are we doing this? This does
Because
sound like
he's saying
discovery to me.
here's why we're wasting more time on this, Judge. Once again, Mr. Mullenbach has said that we can't ask him questions because he has no knowledge of what happened prior to his arrival as Secretary of the Department of Corrections. That was what
Okay,
Mr. Mullenbach
I'm
testified
done.
to. And
Focus
then,
on the thing that actually happened, and then in the context of that discussion that we're actually here for,
right?
you can ask him questions about if he made any, and he had knowledge at that time, and if he considered that information when he made his decision, because otherwise it is irrelevant to me and we are wasting our time. So
I
no,
appreciate that,
stop.
Judge. But again, because Mr. Mullenbach testified that he had no knowledge of anything prior to his arrival at the Department of Corrections, we had to waste the last 15 minutes to determine, in fact, that's true. So now that we know that's true, I'm sure we can move on.
Stop. Let's start
Okay.
again with real questions.
Thank you, Judge. So now with this, at that meeting on January 22nd, did the group demand that the Columbia Correctional Institution lockdown end?
Was
Yes.
this in 2019? Is that what we're talking about now, or 2020?
January
It was
22nd of, it looks like it's 2020, yeah.
Okay, go ahead then, please. Secretary Carr, if you have a memory of that meeting, then what is the question that you have for?
I do
Secretary?
recall that one of their demands was that the lockdown end.
Okay. And you
And I
recall,
think it was already over by that time. No, that's right. It was over by that time.
okay. And we're clear that the lockdown happened because Warden Novak suggested it and you approved it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you tell this group that you had approved the lockdown at this time?
Objection, relevance.
I also don't see the relevance. Move on.
Okay. So do you recall hearing at this meeting that a unit manager, a Department of Corrections employee named Lindsay Walker told a prisoner that with everything that has happened, we were told to be more aggressive and demanding with you guys? Was that
Objection,
statement made
relevance.
to you?
Again, sustained. let's go on to the things that are actually involved in this case, Mr. Cross. I am not going to continue to talk about this prior incident because you have not shown at all that it's relevant to what we're here today about, which is this escape and the investigation that Ms. Novak has objected to, believes it was discriminatory based on her sex, and then her ultimate decision that she felt she was compelled under law to be able to leave her
Okay.
employment.
Did you, well, we'll back up a second. Okay. So when did you first learn about this prison break at Columbia Correctional Institution?
At about 4:30 in the morning on April 16th.
And what year was that?
Oh, 2020.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Prior to that date, did you learn of any issues at Columbia Correctional Institution that then led to this escape?
No.
No. Okay. And okay. So what did you learn at that early hour about the prison escape?
I received a call from Administrator Fesahaya that there had been an escape at Columbia Correctional, which is the maximum security facility, and that two individuals had climbed over the fence and were at large.
Okay. That was that was all the information you had at that time.
Well, that's the gist of it. I mean, again, it was 3 years ago, and I can't remember the, every detail that Administrator Fesahaya may have relayed to me at the time. But
Okay. So after you learned of that information, what steps, if any, did you take?
Oh, well, there's a whole protocol of things and notifications that should take place when an event of that type occurs. And most of those things are directed to happen without me having to give an order for them to happen. They are automatic and they're in policy and procedure.
Objection non-responsive.
I don't know what the question is myself, so he
My
tried to
question
answer.
was, what steps did he take after he, if any, after he learned that information? And he told us that there were automatic steps that were taken when a escape happened. So
Okay,
either that
Secretary
answer
Carr,
is that
just
he did take.
assuming that other apparatus works, do you recall any specific conduct, any specific actions you took?
No, other than confirming with Administrator Fesahaya that the necessary notifications and activities that are supposed to take place were underway.
Okay, what does that mean?
As I previously stated, that there is a protocol of things that need to be done when an escape occurs, whether it's notifying, making certain notifications to law enforcement or other entities, head count that has to take place in the institution. There's a number of operational things that happen when you think something like that has occurred.
Okay. And did it's Director Fesahai?
Administrator.
Administrator, okay. And did she confirm that those actions have been taken?
It was her understanding that those actions were underway.
Okay. And some of those actions, I guess let's be clear, you're aware of all what those actions are, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Are you aware of what, if anything, a warden is required to do in response to an escape?
One of I don't know every single thing that the wardens are responsible to do, but I am aware of one thing, and that is that they are supposed to make certain notifications in a timely manner and to direct their staff to follow the specific protocol in response to an escape. That's what they're supposed to do.
Okay, so based on your conversation with Administrator Fesahai, you understood that the institution, namely CCI, was taking the steps required by the policy, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's because she told you? Like, did she
Yes.
send you any information?
Yes. In the phone call when she notified me of the escape, she told me that, the folks were, putting into motion everything that our response to the escape.
Okay, what
Can
does
we
folks
spell,
mean?
excuse me, 1 second, can we spell for the record, this person's name, please?
Sure. It's Fessahaye.
And she's number 2 on the respondents exhibit list for copying and
Right, I
pasting
just
purposes.
want to make sure we're clear that we're all talking about this person. We're saying it in different ways, not always the same way, because obviously we have problems understanding sometimes certain words. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with this person and who it is that we're talking about. And it is a person who's a female, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and if we could be careful when answering or asking questions to use the name instead of he or she, because you were asking about Warden Novak, and then you said she, and you were referring to Ms. Fasa Egi, and we need to know what the real she we're talking about. Go ahead then, please.
I appreciate that. We'll keep that in mind going forward. So, okay. So she had confirmed to you on that, as I understood it. Then moving on from there, when was the next time that you heard anything about this escape?
I'm going to object to that last question. It's a mischaracterization of his answer.
I'll withdraw that
Can you
question.
just,
What is the next time you heard about this escape?
Well,
after the the morning 4:30 telephone call, what was the next time you had any interaction or discussion about the escape?
when I got to Madison that morning, I immediately showered, dressed, jumped in my car, and headed to Madison. I live in the Milwaukee area.
Okay. And then what did you do, and what activities did you take part in Madison to regarding the escape?
Well, I met with my leadership team here at the Department of Corrections headquarters and monitored the activities that were taking place in response to the escape and the hunt or search for the escapees.
Okay. So what does monitoring mean?
It means being kept abreast of all the activities that are occurring relative to the incident.
Okay.
This is a large organization. I've got almost 9,000 employees. I have a lot of people that, I get work done through, and they inform me of what's going on.
Great. And then specifically, you're talking about your leadership team, right?
My leadership team, and that includes Administrator Fesahaya and the folks that work for her, my deputy secretary, my assistant deputy secretary, and anybody else that's on my executive staff.
Okay. So what actions, if any, did the leadership team take to response to the escape?
I'm
Okay,
object to relevance.
I'm having a problem here. I don't understand what's happening. So, Secretary Carr, did you stay in a meeting with all of your leadership team, basically working on this escape issue all day long? Or did you work on other issues? Did you stay in like one room with them? Or were you basically doing other stuff? I need to know what's happening.
Okay. At headquarters, in my office in Madison, my leadership team all have offices adjacent to mine or nearby within walking distance, 20 feet at the most. And, you know, if we needed to convene in my conference room, we would. If we didn't, we might have conversations in each other's offices. This was a very dynamic, important, in fact, highly serious and unusual event that it's one of the most critical things that can happen in corrections is the escape of a prisoner from a maximum security facility. And, because it has serious public safety implications.
So
we're
you didn't
doing,
sit in a room with them all day long, is that correct?
that's correct.
Were you in your office doing other things besides this, monitoring this escape?
Judge, I don't recall. What I do recall is there was nothing more important going on that day than this.
Okay, so did you have any other meetings? Did you actually have any meetings that you recall with anybody?
Not that I recall.
So you don't remember people all getting into your office and talking about this, or you
Oh.
going into someone else's meeting room to talk about this?
Oh, sure, of course. I remember, having conversations with my executive staff about this escape and what was going on and what we were learning at the moment. How did it happen? There's a whole range of questions that we have that the information is coming in bits and pieces as it is learned.
So is this all of them in one room? Or,
not necessarily.
so when you say that you were meeting with your leadership team, what do you mean by that?
I mean, individually or in groups. It could have been either or.
Go ahead, Mr. Cross.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate all that. Okay. So, because part of what we're trying to figure out, sir, is where the activity is taking place. So, are there activity? Are you aware of anything that is taking part at the institutional level? That is the warden and below to, I guess, what are we going to call return the inmates to the facility?
Well, once the law enforcement entities had been notified, they are primarily leading the search for the escapees. We assist them with information in any other way that we can, but at a point, our attention has to start to focus on how they escaped. What methods did they use? How did the whole thing occur? And that is something that happens at the warden level, at the institution, and then we can also supplement their staffing with the security director and other folks in our agency who have expertise in these matters to assist.
Okay, did that happen?
I believe it did.
Okay, who assisted Warden Novak, if anyone?
I think we sent Larry Fuchs, who is now the warden there.
I'm sorry, can you say that again, please?
Larry Fuchs,
Spell last name, please.
Fuchs, to assist in figuring out what happened, why it happened, and what kind of corrective measures could be put in place to prevent it from happening again.
But that was after the inmates were returned, right?
I'm not certain.
Okay. Well, I didn't hear you say anything that Mr. Fuchs did to assist with the return of the inmates. Did I miss something?
Yeah, I said once they're gone and we make law enforcement contact and ask for their assistance, the actual apprehension of the fugitives are primarily a law enforcement matter. I thought I said that, and because our folks, we can only assist law enforcement by providing them with additional information that might be helpful in the law enforcement investigation to apprehend the escapees.
Do you have any knowledge whether or not Mr. Fuchs aided law enforcement in returning any escapees?
No, I don't.
Okay. And you don't know if you sent him before or after the escapees were returned, right?
No, I don't.
Okay. Now,